Friends, let's settle in. Let's get physically comfortable in the spot that you've chosen. Let's let those distractions go as you gently allow your eyes to close or your gaze to soften. And then let's turn our attention to the breath. For some of us, maybe that's been our attention many times today. For others, maybe it's the first time we've paused and really thought about the inhale, the exhale, that little space in between each one. So just find you a good rhythm, breathing in and breathing out. And as you're beginning to find that really nice rhythm, let's just each check in with ourselves and just see if we're tired, if we're worried, if we're distracted, if we're peaceful and calm, whatever all those adjectives are that kind of describe our state of being, just check in with yourself and see, how do you feel right here in this moment? And I would encourage you, as much as I encourage me, just accept. Accept this moment as it is right now. This is how I feel in this moment. And don't try to change things. Meet those emotions, those states of being with acceptance and compassion and grace and love. And what I've found over the years in this practice is when I meet my states of being with that, they begin to shift on their own. The tiredness has less of an impact. The worry gets smaller and smaller, and the peace and the calm begin to grow. It's not an instant, automatic thing, but it is part of this practice. Breathing in, I accept this moment as it is. Breathing out with compassion, patience, and grace. So just find that rhythm of breath. Know exactly how you are in this moment. Accept it. And let's check in with a question that I love to ask, both to myself and as we sit collectively. And the question is, who am I? Who am I? And it's one of those great big soul questions that when it's asked, we often pause and think, what's the right answer? What's the answer to really represent what I feel on the inside? What's the answer that represents this journey that I've been on? For some of us, a long time. What's the answer that represents the consistency with which I try to show up for this practice? Who am I? But I've really been sitting the last few days with not that particular question, but with the other side of it. Because we all know that we have distractions. We know that the world has heaped these impressions upon us. And sometimes, as we ask the question of who am I, things are a little distorted. So I've been sitting with the idea of the question of, who am I not? Who am I not? And the longer that we have this practice as a part of our life, there are things that just don't fit anymore. There are habits and there's patterns, and sometimes there's relationships. There are circumstances in our life that maybe we accepted them as just the norm. And then all of a sudden we realize they just don't fit who we are. And so maybe sitting with this idea of who am I not, some of these layers will begin to melt away. And when those things begin to leave, we'll have a much clearer sense of who we are. And I've learned in my own studies and the ways that I've been taught that when you ask the question of who am I, you're not asking, who do I want to become? Who am I trying to be? No, we want to go back to the core, the essence of who we were born onto this earth as, what our purpose is, our contribution to this world, to humanity, to future generations. That is what it means to ask who we are. Going back to the core of who we were at that moment of that first breath. That essence that's gotten a little lost sometimes. So let's sit for just the next few breaths and really begin to ask. I want to know who I am. I truly do. But I want to be able to recognize the things that have come into my life that are part of my schedule, my patterns, my habits that just don't fit who I am anymore. They may have served a purpose for a while, or they may be an impression that the world just put on me or in my path, but they just don't fit. And so I want to ask the question a few times as we each just sit in our space, comfortable, breathing, present. And without straining to answer, let's just each see what is revealed. What comes across your mind as the question is asked? What comes across your mind as you sit quietly? So let's just pause. Breathing in, breathing out. Who am I not? Who am I not? Who am I not? Who am I not? Just pause. Let the question just hold space. And in the quiet, let's see in our own hearts what is revealed. Continuing to breathe, continuing to sit comfortably, adjusting as you need to. Let's just pause that question and make sure that we're approaching it with grace and acceptance and patience and understanding. Because it's really easy that when you ask the question of who am I not, to start to make a list of all the things that we think we're doing wrong. All the things that we don't think should be part of our life. We start to judge ourselves. And that's not the intention of the question. I love this idea of asking it with just this notion of what doesn't fit? How have I grown in the days, the weeks, the years of this practice? And what no longer fits? I've had people share, and I've shared myself, that all of a sudden one day you realize this doesn't belong. I no longer have an attachment to it, and I need to just let it go. It feels very matter of fact. There's no mourning. There's no sorrow about that thing leaving your life. You just know that it's time. And so again, we don't make a list. We don't beat ourselves over the head of all the things that we need to fix and change tomorrow. We just have to be open. And as we search for this question of who I am, we begin to understand more clearly who we're not. So now let's approach that same question with more grace, more compassion, no judgment, love, patience. Who am I not? Who am I not? Who am I not? And then let's shift back to asking who we are. And so as we sit for these next few minutes, I want to ask the question again. And maybe come with a little encouragement for how do we seek? How do we discover? How do we really, truly know who we are? There's impact in our life. There's evidence to help us understand the essence of us, the beauty, this divine light that exists within us. And so just continuing to breathe, sitting comfortably. Who am I? What kind of things fill up my calendar and my schedule? Who am I? What kind of people do I spend my time with? Who am I? In this day and age, what does my social media feed look like? What are the things that come across my screen that catch my attention and hold it? Who am I? When I look out across the earth, at nature, at other people, do I see my connection to them? Do I see the oneness between us? Who am I? And when I sit quietly and still, cultivating this meditation practice, learning to really like and love and accept this person that I'm sitting with right here. Who am I? So let's just pause and breathe and sit with that person with full acceptance, grace, compassion, and love. And as we continue to breathe, preparing to close our time shortly, if it feels right, just bring your left hand and put it at heart center, and then turn your right hand over and just let it remain empty and open. even if you're not doing, just imagine what that looks like. One hand on your heart, one hand open, light, available, empty. And let this be our reminder. The left hand on the heart represents our desire to know who we truly are. The essence, the core, the light of our being. And that right hand represents our willingness to let go, to detach from all the things that we are not. The habits, the mindsets, the schedules, the relationships. There's so many things to fill in the blank, but let that hand represent your willingness. I may not know the names of the things that I need to detach from, but I am willing. All the things that I am not, I am willing to let them go. Because that left hand represents my deepest desire, and that is to know who I am. And then just allow your hands just to come to rest. And over the coming days and our time together, we're going to keep exploring this idea of who we are. It's not a question that we ask once, we get an answer, and then we just live our lives. Because the world will continue to have impressions on us and put layers of being in our path. So we'll continue to ask this question. We'll continue to seek and discover. And I hope we'll do it with love and compassion and acceptance and grace. And along this journey, continue to catch this glimpse of us. And each time we catch that glimpse, we learn to like and to love and accept that us more and more. Namaste.